Hello everybody, and this master game I'm going to show you today is a very short one between Alekhine and Evenson. Alekhine was white in this game, played in 1918, and it starts off with e4, e5, knight c3, which is a bit unusual. This opening is called the Vienna, and it's quite passive normally. With white not taking the initiative right away, instead just uh, sort of having ideas of maybe playing g3 and bishop g2. But there can be a very aggressive reason behind it in a very unusual line, which Alekhine does actually play. After knight f6, bishop c4, bishop b4 is played, and this is, I think, why Alekhine actually did play knight c3. He wasn't planning on doing the usual defensive idea and positional maneuvering, which is usually seen in this opening. Instead, he suddenly lashed out with f4, which wouldn't have been possible if knight f3 had been played. So this is a lot like a king's gambit, to be honest. So here it's quite difficult to decide on a move for black. I think if I was playing this, I might have played knight c6 to defend the pawn and not just grab it on f4. Instead, though, Evenson played bishop takes c3, and now Alekhine didn't capture towards the centre, which is usually recommended, but he played the far better move, d takes c3. So this allows development of both the queen on the d file and the c1 bishop at the same time. Now knight takes e4 was played, which again I wouldn't recommend. I would probably have played knight c6 again, but white had a very strong move here. Bishop takes f7 check, king takes, and now there's a fork with queen d5 check. So after king e8, queen takes the knight. And so white has equalized in terms of material, and also black can no longer castle. So that king stuck in the center could be a very nice target for the white pieces. Knight c6 is now played, takes, and queen e7. So white now defends the e5 pawn with knight f3, and black attacks it with d6. So instead of just castling, white instead plays bishop g5, hitting the black queen. And these development tempo start to tell. After queen e6, castle queenside. And now the rook on a1 has been transferred to d1, so it's on the semi-open file. And one possible plan white could have is to play rook h to e1, and then the two rooks will be in the center, and the black king could very easily be getting checkmated rather quickly. Evenson tries to close up with d takes e5, but now knight takes e5. And unfortunately, if queen takes, then there's rook d8 check, and if the knight takes, then say goodbye to the queen. So if king f7, there's now a checkmate for white with rook f1 check, bishop f5, rook takes, king e6, rook takes check, knight takes, and here white can just reroute and take the knight, and there's still no way out of the checkmate for black. So if the king tries to make a run for it, queen takes pawn, rook f8 to try and get the king back to g8 as though he'd castled by hand, but then rook d7 prevents king g8 really being an option because of queen takes g7 checkmate. So the last few moves are just a forced win with rook takes g7, bishop f6, and then queen g5 mate. So going back, I know that it would be incredibly hard to calculate all this out, but I think once you'd seen that rook d8 and rook f1 were going to be played, alarm bells would ring and you'd realise you'd lose a lot of material. So Alekhine's opponent instead had a go at h6 to kick the bishop, and that way rook d8 isn't such a problem. But can you see what Alekhine played now to force his opponent to resign? Yeah, this is a fantastic move. Queen takes the knight on c6 check. And if the queen is taken by either the pawn or the black queen, then rook d8 is checkmate. And Alekhine's opponent didn't really feel like playing on with bishop d7 because queen takes c7 is absolutely crushing. I can imagine the game might go pawn takes bishop, rook takes g6 maybe. I can't see any other good move. Rook h d1, queen f6, and then there's a checkmate with rook d8, rook takes, queen takes, queen f7 mate. But the point of this game, and the reason I think it's very instructive, is if we go back to the beginning, let's say here in the Vienna, this is all perfectly fine, and I think I've had this position as black several times. What you don't want to be doing is giving white lots of extra development tempi. So bishop takes knight is moving a piece you've already moved again, so bishop takes c3 doesn't help develop. And it helps white's development because after d takes, then white's got a bishop out, 2 pawns in the centre, and the bishop and queen can immediately come out as well. And black still has trouble developing the light squared bishop. But again, that might still be tenable here with knight c6. So may not be as good as another move a moment ago, but knight c6 could work. And again, moving a piece you've already moved with knight takes e4, and it's a central pawn, but again, alarm bells should be going off. White's already very good in development, and a key square that you always have to be looking at before you've castled is the f pawn, the f2 or f7 square, depending if you're white or black. And that is often a very weak square. So queen d5 doesn't work because of knight d6, but this sacrifice is very thematic of a lot of e4 openings, with the fork working. And now, even though the computer might say that black can survive this and it's only a small advantage for white, in the long term, black's position is absolutely ruined. The king can't castle, so it's stuck in the centre, and look at the pawn structure, it's very open. So here, the f file is now opened, the d file is open for white, and white could push the pawn to e6 and make the e file be an open file as well. So then, as long as white can successfully develop pieces like this, also stopping black fully developing, which is an added bonus, and then just get his own king to safety whilst developing a rook, it's practically game over already here. And I think at this point the computer gives it as +2 for white. And I think that's being generous to the person with black here, because I would give this +5 for white. And after the attempt at closing the e-file, Black's engaging in more tactics when he hasn't fully developed. Perhaps bishop d7 might have been the best try, but it still isn't, it probably isn't sufficient to be able to really try and draw this. So after this, it feels like Black's already on the ropes here. And again, I mean, it pains me to say it, but I think Black's already lost. I think that knight takes e5 just fails to rook d8 check, and then rook f1 after king f7. But to be honest, that might be the best move. So even though the very pretty queen takes c6 is there, it's all because of Black's poor handling of the position and not appreciating the need to develop and watch out for thematic ideas from White. Anyway, I hope you got something from this video. Comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.